My name is Noah Jordan from Franklin and Marshall College. Today, I will be presenting my findings on the abundance of bushbucks in the Gorongosa in the dry season versus the abundance of bushbucks in the Gorongosa in the wet season. The Gorongosa is a national park in Mozambique, Africa, with a diverse environment, having four separate habitats: the limestone gorge, the floodplain grassland, the Miombo woodland, and the mixed savanna and woodland area. Its many different environments led to a multitude of species living in the Gorongosa, making it one of the most diverse national parks in the world from a species perspective. In 1977, a civil war broke out in Mozambique that lasted until 1992, known as the War of Destabilization. However, for Gorongosa National Park, it did more than just destabilize, it destroyed, killing roughly 90% of the animals living there. Recently, a conservation effort was launched in the Gorongosa with the goal of reintroducing the species to the Gorongosa that were killed during the war. As the project progressed, a game camera system was introduced to the park, which took pictures of animals whenever they passed one of the cameras. This allowed the number of animals of each species to be tracked. Since this data is publicly available, questions arose in our group about how certain factors affect the presence of certain species in the Gorongosa. More specifically, we wanted to analyze the effect of dry season versus wet season on the number of bushbucks present in the Gorongosa. It was hypothesized that there would be a difference in abundance of bushbuck during the dry season versus the wet season. We predicted that more bushbucks would be in the Gorongosa in the dry season than the wet season due to the bushbucks feeding on grasses that are more prevalent in the dry season. On the Gorongosa National Park's website, the data from the game cameras can be analyzed using four filters: species, habitat, season, and time of day. In order to analyze our question, only two filters were used. Species was naturally set to be bushbuck, which was our dependent variable. However, the season on the website was split up into four categories by the Gorongosa administration. Thus, the four data sets had to be combined into two, just wet season and dry season. January through June was considered to be wet season, and July through December was considered to be dry season. The season was the independent variable. The other two filters, habitat and time of day, were left unused. This data was then downloaded from the website, put into an Excel spreadsheet, and a pivot table was made, comparing the species count of bushbucks in the dry season to the species count in the wet season. This data was exported to SPSS and an independent t-test was done. In addition to that, since the results were significant, the mean difference percentage was also calculated. The independent t-test showed that there were significantly more bushbucks during the dry season than during the wet season. It was found that the number of bushbucks in the dry season was 3.91 times greater than the number of bushbucks in the wet season. This trend is also demonstrated by the graph, in which the dry season bar is much higher than the wet season bar. The null hypothesis stated that the number of bushbucks in the Gorongosa would not be affected by the season, wet or dry. However, the null hypothesis was rejected, meaning that the season does indeed have an effect on the number of bushbucks in the Gorongosa, and more specifically, that there are significantly more in the dry season than there are in the wet season. The bushbucks are much more abundant during the dry season than the wet season, and the main factor for this is the difference in amount of food. The grasses that are one of the bushbuck's main sources of food grow rampant during the dry season, but much less so during the wet season. This reduction in food during the wet season greatly reduces the number of bushbucks that the Gorongosa environment is able to support. This result is in agreement with our original prediction, and the reasoning has stayed the same. One implication from the results that were obtained is a method to keep many species populations high in the Gorongosa regardless of season. This can be done through agriculture, planting food for one animal during a season where it previously did not have food, can not only keep that specific population high, but can also help their predators and their predators' predators, and so on. Increasing the food of one species has a spiraling effect that could be beneficial to many species beyond just that one. Another interesting thing to note is that both could have affected the results of this report, as well as could have played a role in the Gorongosa conservation effort, is that the overall number of bushbucks is up because less of its natural predators have been reintroduced yet, according to an article in The Atlantic. It is possible that this could have affected the results from this lab because the predators who had yet to be reintroduced could have hunted the bushbucks only during one season or the other, and the lack of their presence would throw off the results of this report. In the broader scheme, the conservation effort could allow the prey to continue to grow and breed rampantly, and then reintroduce the predators, ensuring that they have plenty of available prey to eat upon reintroduction, hopefully giving them a higher chance of survival. Thank you.